Hello, dear children. Today I will teach you a drama by Eugene O'Neill, Long Day's Journey into Night. Now, I think you all are very much familiar with Eugene O'Neill because in BA3 you all have done a play by Eugene O'Neill, Desire Under the Elms. Now, as you all know, that Desire Under the Elms was also a tragedy in a sense that how Abby and Aben suffers in the end. They go to the jail and they have to forego their present life for the sake of the sins or the crime that they have committed in killing their own child, isn't it? But of course, today I'm not going to indulge into Desire Under the Elms, but today I'm going to talk to you about Eugene O'Neill's play, Long Days into Night, Long Day's Journey into Night. Now, this was a play that was written in 1940-41, but it was published in the year 1956. And this play is, and as the very title of the play suggests, Long Day's Journey into the Night, meaning to say that it is what is the main theme of the play? The main theme of the play is time. Now, time, it shows the continuum of the American innocence that is shown in the play, and how through the passage of time, through the period of the long day, how the long day ends into the dark night. That means how the day passes and is enveloped by darkness in the end. Now, in this play, there are four main characters. It's a Tyrone family, whose patriarch is the James Tyrone. Mary Tyrone is the wife, and Jimmy and Edmund are the two sons. Now, it is a one-day play. I mean, the whole act, all the three acts, they turn out to be performed in one day. That is how, through the span of one day, how the Eugene O'Neill has tried to show the trauma that the family members are undergoing. Each one is addicted in some way or the other. Now, James is supposed to be the patriarch of the family, and Mary Tyrone, she has just returned from the sanatorium. That is, after a rehab, she has come from the sanatorium because she is addicted to using morphine. And in fact, her addiction to morphine, she blames it on her husband because he was the one, probably, he showed her to a doctor who was not very competent enough to treat her, and how he made her subjugated to the use of morphine, which has really traumatized the life of Mary, the mother. And how all the time, when we meet Mary in the play, how all the time she's recollecting her past life. That is what she was in the past. So you can say addiction is something which is not which was not treated as a disease. When you are addicted to something, naturally it is regarded as a disease, but people do not take it as a mental disease, and people do not have, and in those days did not have a you can say a cure for that particular mental disease. And why this play, Long Day's Journey into the Night, is important, because this is also an autobiographical play. Now, Edmund, the son Edmund, he represents O'Neill himself, because Edmund in this play, the son, the second son, is suffering from tuberculosis from consumption, and Eugene O'Neill himself had suffered from that. And his older brother, that is Jemmy, and father David, they were both of them alcoholic, and his father was also a famous actor. David is supposed to be an actor in this particular play, and who has performed, who could have used his craftsmanship in performing well, or rather doing well as an actor, but how he failed to do so simply because he focused more in earning money rather than showing his craftsman's skill. And the mother was a morphine addict, and in this play also it is shown that Mary is morphine addict. And this play was written in Tower House in Danville, California, and published in 1956, as I told you, and it belongs to the period of modernism and postmodernism. And why the play, in fact, is set up in a summer house of the Tyrone family in August 1912. The action begins in the morning, just after the breakfast, you can say. And the first act tends to reveal that Mary has returned to the family after a period of staying in the sanatorium and suffering from drug addiction, morphine, in fact. And you can also say that Mary, meanwhile, has in her recent weeks begun to cough very violently. She used to cough violently, and we learn later on in the play that as Tyrone and Janny suspect Jamie is the first elder son, Edmund has tuberculosis. Throughout the course of the play, we tend to discover that Mary is still addicted to morphine, and much to the disappointment of the family, both David, Jamie, and Edmund, all three of them want to deny, and all three of them want her to come out of her trauma and addiction of morphine, but all of them are unable to do so. So, this gradual revelation of these two medical disasters, that is, of Edmund suffering from consumption, tuberculosis, as well as Mary suffering from morphine addiction, makes up the most of the play's plot. And in between these discoveries, however, the family, constantly revisits old fights and opens new wounds left by the past, which the family members are never able to forget. Now, Tyrone, for example, is constantly blamed for his own stinginess. Mary is all the time, blaming David, because all the time, whenever she is there, she's sitting with either her husband or with her sons. She's all the time complaining that why David did not, first of all, give her a proper home. And though he has the wealth, and though he can provide well for the family, still he's only showing his stinginess by spending his money in real estate property, and he does not want to come out of the aura of his poor house. And Mary, on the other hand, is never unable to forego her past or admit that painful truth of the present, and that truth is her addiction to morphine, and that her younger son, that is Edmund, is suffering from tuberculosis. And they all argue over Jamie and Edmund's failure to become successors of their father, either in the field of you can say drama, or Edmund. Edmund was supposed to be a sailor in the tropics, but he also was not able to succeed in his job. In fact, he came back home, and with the influence of Jamie, he also took up to alcohol and became addicted to taking alcohol. And with the result, he also wasted the years of his life. So all the day, you can say the whole day wears on, and the men keep on drinking more and more until they are able to pass out in the last act. That means when they are no longer able to hold themselves. And most of the plot of the play, is in a way repetitive. Why? See, just as the cycle of the alcoholic is repetition. Why? Because once a person gets addicted to alcohol, he cannot refrain a single day from having it. He is all constant. And David, the father, the patriarch of the house, is all the time trying to avoid in taking whiskey. But due to some pretext or the other, he used to come back on and off in order to drink his whiskey. And Mary, on the other hand, she also used to do that sneakiness, that when she finds that the two sons are absent and David is absent, she used to sneak around and enter into the room of David, where she used to find this bottle of whiskey, and she used to pour a little for her own self. In fact, later on, when she meets Kathleen, who is supposed to be a peasant worker, a housekeeper of the house, and she pours whiskey out of that bottle and offers it to Kathleen. And she wants to make Kathleen drunk, simply because as long as Kathleen is drinking, she will be able to talk her heart out. That is all she wants to do. And in fact, most of the time, what happens? that in Act Two, Scene One, where when the lunch is set out on the table, each one of them, rather each character is focused on the interplay between their actions and reactions between each other. And in Act One features Mary Tyrone, and in Act Two, Tyrone and that is Jemmy and Edmund and Mary, and all these characters. This, they keep on reminding. And whenever in the beginning, what happens, that David is trying to, when he meets Mary, when he confronts her, he's trying to show her his love for her. He's trying to cajole and caress her. He's trying to make her feel comfortable so that she can come out of her trauma. In fact, she should not feel as if she is addicted to morphine. But Mary somehow, all the time she says, well, see, I am pretty and my hands are still pretty and still I'm capable of doing work. But then she looks at her own hands. Once again, she turns and looks at her own hands and she says, well, it is suffering from rheumatism. My hands are suffering from rheumatism and they are not so beautiful as they were supposed to be in the beginning. So all the time, she is repenting her past, and at the same time, with that repentance, she's all the time feeling that in the beginning she was beautiful, she was loved, and later on, of course, the because of the trauma of the house, and because of the suffering of Edmund, and because of Chammy's mischievousness, as well as the carelessness, and you can say the stinginess of not working hard or being like his father in his job, that is acting as a doing his part as a play actor or an actor on the stage. He is wasting his energy and wasting his time in keeping on drinking. So Jamie, who's the elder son, he's 33 years old, and it's not very old. In fact, you can say he's a middle-aged person. But Edmund, who is a younger son, he was a sailor, but Jemmy brings him back to his own self and makes Edmund follow the footsteps of his own life. Why he wants to make Edmund follow the footsteps of his own life is simply because he feels he is guilt ridden. Jemmy is guilt ridden in the fact because Mary, the mother, blames Jemmy for what? For the killing of the second son, Eugene. Eugene was supposed to be the second son, but he died early. In fact, because of his too much of drinking and because of the interference of Jemmy, who entered the room of Eugene, he had died, and without taking care of the baby had died of measles. So, Mary is having that constriction and having that feeling all the time that Jemmy is responsible for the death of her second son, Eugene, who died of measles. And at the same time, at the back of her mind, she has the consciousness that if probably Mary, this person, Edmund, will also be able to prolong his disease of consumption, and probably will suffer in the same manner as her second son, Eugene. And she does not want her second son, I mean Edmund, to suffer like Eugene. So that is why she is all the time so very conscious of the suffering. And this Edmund, he is simple hearted, but due to taking to this drinking of alcohol, he cannot abstain from his activities as such, that whenever he gets a chance, although he tries to avoid, but whenever he gets a chance, we'll find both of the sons, coming in and going out, and whenever they have a chance, they are partaking from the bottle of whiskey. And David, of course, is alcoholic, the father. So all the three of them are, duped into that feeling of spending their life in alcohol, and all three of them are trying to deny to their own selves that their mother is recovering, but at the same time they realize also that the mother is still addicted to morphine. And Mary, on the other hand, she tries to pretend, she tries to show herself as if she's not addicted to morphine, but on every pretext, she will go upstairs and at some point or the other, she will try to take another dose of morphine. So, this is what I mean. You can say how the family tends to suffer in this aspect. A family um, uh, which is having the father having a wife, I mean the man of the house is having a wife, as well as at the same time he has got two sons, but he has not been able to channelize properly the life of the two sons, he says. And at the same time, the most important thing which signifies as a climax in in the whole drama is the time when Jemmy strikes or hits at Edmund, his younger brother, out of annoyance, when he is trying to show that the mother is not addicted, but at the same time he is admitting that the mother is addicted to morphine. So out of sheer anger he strikes him, and this becomes the climax of the play. And there is a feeling of antagonism also in the play. Antagonism meaning that having apathy and addiction, these are the two, apathy and addiction are the two antagonistic factors that are threatening the Tyrone family in this particular play. And they keep on and when in the end, this Mary, when she sits with the two sons and with David, she becomes nostalgic. She becomes nostalgic, and she reverts back to her past life. She keeps on and starts describing her past, that when she was a young child, how she was studying in a convent school. And when she was studying in the convent, she was very well attached and associated with Mother Elizabeth. That means the nuns are there. And all throughout, and when she became so much attached to Mother Elizabeth, she decided that she will become a nun. Either she will become a nun or a pianist. So these were the two aims of her life. And all the time, when she is recoiling from her present life, and moving herself into a shell of her own life, she reminiscences, and at the same time regrets that why did she not become a nun, or why did she not become a pianist on the other hand. But she says later on, when she met David, where she was watching a play in which David was acting, and after meeting David in his dressing room, they fell in love with each other, and she decided to marry David. And with her marriage, of course, and rather she regards that her marriage was a doomsday, in the sense that she neither was able to fulfill her ambitions, and neither did she receive any satisfaction in her married life. Although she became a mother of three sons, Jemmy, Eugene, and Edmund. Eugene, who was no longer there with her, but even with the presence of Jemmy and Edmund, she is still not satisfied with the presence of the two sons. So what and she regrets that. And in the end, when she comes back from this comes back from her room, she drags her wedding gown. She drags her gown. In the end, she keeps dragging and throwing it on the other side. But while throwing it on the other side, she is sitting with the two sons and the husband, and she keeps repeating and saying that, well, I always wanted to be a nun, and I never wanted to enter into this sort of life. And she keeps blaming David for not providing her a proper home, or in fact giving her all the comforts that she desired. So within this period of 3 years, all this is a story also of a loss in life. And in fact, Eugene O'Neill's personal life, within the span of 3 years, Eugene's whole family member, all of them had died. His father has succumbed to a long standing illness, and his mother had also died of brain tumor. So that was a very sad part. and the dramatist Eugene O'Neill is trying to show in this particular play, Long Day's Journey into a Night, because he says time is an inexorable descent into darkness. And this play is in part, a continuum of the theme of loss in American drama and in the personal life of Eugene O'Neill, because that very long day, tends to end up into darkness. And at the same time, the themes that you can say in this particular play can be fatalism and resignation. Fatalism, that means you are fated to meet your own end because of the deeds that you have committed. You have to be resigned to receive what you have done. And since the father himself was an alcoholic and did not pay much attention to the lives of the two sons, who should have been married and settled, and Edmund should also have been a well settled sailor or got another job. He never bothered for himself own self, and for the two sons and for his own self, to be a good actor. And and another thing is, another theme could be denial, blame, and guilt. That is for everything. That is whatever fault a person has. David has his own fault, Mary has his own fault, Edmund has his own fault, and Jemmy has his own faults. But denial. Edmund does not want to admit that it is because of his own failure and because of his own bad habit he has not been able to prosper. And denial of the fact that he is suffering from tuberculosis. Edmund is suffering from tuberculosis, but the mother wants to cover up his disease, and all the time she says, when they are talking of Edmund, she says he's suffering from some summer cold. And if Jemmy contradicts her and says no, he's suffering from consumption, she doesn't want to admit it. And she doesn't believe the doctor, the family doctor, because it says that the family doctor does not have any proper knowledge, and he cannot understand that my son is only suffering from a flu, from a cold, and it is not tuberculosis. But in actuality, when the phone call comes, in between the phone call of the doctor does come to David, and when David attends the phone, he learns from the doctor that Edmund is suffering from tuberculosis and finally will have to be taken to sanatorium. Now, this bitter truth of the son suffering from a disease is a denial on the fact, on the part of Mary, the mother, David, the father, and Jemmy. But this is the truth which has to take place and which will take place in future, when Edmund will no longer be able to live in the house and will have to be taken to a sanatorium. And another thing is blame and guilt. Blame and guilt, that is, David blames the condition of Mary because she is addicted to morphine and because she is not able to act like a proper mother and a wife in the house. Therefore, probably because of her condition, he is responsible for the sufferings of the two sons or for the conditions of the house. So he is not blaming his own self, he's blaming the wife, he's blaming the son Jemmy for being a good for a nothing fellow, for spending most of his time in the bar and drinking and becoming an alcohol and turning out in the end, lying flat, uselessly, isn't it? And Edmund is also blaming his brother Jemmy and the conditions and his mother for being addicted and not giving her proper care and affection and love that he desired in life. So this is a blame which each member of the family tends to put upon each other. And guilt is another theme. Why? Because each one of them is guilty of their own faults. Instead of blaming the doctor for making her addicted to morphine, Mary cannot decide to come out of her addiction of morphine. That is, even when, the husband tries to show his love and affection towards her, and Jemmy and Edmund are also being very caring and affectionate towards their mother. So they are trying to make her forget her world of addiction. They are trying to make her come out of that world, but yet, on every little pretext, she goes up to her room and again takes a dose of morphine and comes down and becomes nostalgic about the past and starts blaming others for her own bad condition. Edmund is blaming Jemmy, and Jemmy is blaming the father and the mother for his own alcoholic state of mind. So, this, play of blame and guilt is all the time going on in the family. Nobody is taking the responsibility of their own actions in making them what they are. And another important theme could be loneliness, isolation, and belongingness. And because of that, and because of all these things, each member in the family is a lonely member. Each member feels isolated from each other. Now, Mary communicate, cannot have that communication with the husband whom she loved in the beginning and whom she thought will continue to do everything for her. And when she falls in love with David and when she marries her, she has all the hopes of living in a good house and all the hopes that her second child, Eugene, is not going to die of measles, and had all the hopes that the doctor is not going to prescribe her morphine or rather make her addicted to that drug, which is almost, you can say, mentally fatalistic for her. If not physical fatalism is there, but mental fatalism is there for her. So she, although all the three members, David, Jemmy, and Edmund, are around her and with her in the summer house in that one summer long day, but yet she is lonely and isolated and does not belong. David feels the same, as if he does not belong to his sons because the sons are antagonistic, aggressive towards the father. They are not willing to accept what the father is saying, not wants to comply with the suggestions of the father. When the father wants Jemmy to stop going to the bar and stop drinking whiskey, you will find that still he comes back and does the same action. The father himself wants to avoid drinking, but he comes back home and he searches his he goes to his signature room and he gets his bottle of whiskey, and when he starts pouring the whiskey, he suspects that somebody has been using his whiskey, because remember, Mary, who had given Kathleen whiskey from the same bottle of David, to supplement that loss of whiskey from the bottle, she had poured some water into the bottle, so that when David comes back, he'll find the bottle all filled up to the very brim. And she wants to dupe him into realizing that nobody drank from the bottle. The bottle is full. She never drank, and neither did Kathleen drink. So what is this? This is living in a world of hypnotism, hypocrisy. You are being hypocritic, trying to keep up a face in front of your husband that you are not responsible for the loss of that whiskey from the bottle. But at the same time, you are proving to be a liar because you yourself poured the whiskey from the bottle and filled that whiskey bottle with water instead. So you want David to live in the make-believe world that he is the only man who is drinking whiskey. And he tries to confirm. He tries to show his alertness that, see, if I drink whiskey, if whiskey, keeps the mind alert. So another pretext of his drinking habit, he is showing by telling others that whiskey is not harming him, but whiskey is making him more alert in life. So this is, you are cheating your own self. You are living in a world of your own loneliness. And it seems as if you do not belong to others in the family. When Jemmy strikes Edmund, he pushes and strikes him. That also shows the antagonism between the two brothers. No matter, Jemmy loves his brother very much. He is caring towards him. And later on, in fact, he admits that it is because of me that Edmund has become like this. That is, he uh, makes a statement that, of course, I thought that Edmund will show some sense, but I think he has brought Edmund to his own level. Why Jemmy has tried to bring Edmund to his own level of drinking is because in his heart of heart he feels guilty of the fact that the mother thinks that he is the murderer of the second child, Eugene. So, loneliness, isolation, and belongingness is also a theme in the play. And another theme could be love and forgiveness. So, no matter how much this isolation is there in the family, this alienation is there, but despite of that feeling, David still loves his wife. And the wife, Mary, does profess her love for her husband, and she says, because of my love for David, that I refuse to marry. Sorry, I refuse to be a nun, as I promised my mother, Elizabeth, that I shall be when I was in school, when I was in the convent. And Eugene and Jemmy, no matter how much antagonism they might be showing towards, how much apathy they might be having for each other, but still there is love for them. And if Jemmy was not able to raise Edmund to a higher style of life and feels responsible for bringing him down, but yet at the same time, he's concerned. He's concerned because he also does not want to accept the fact that Edmund is suffering from consumption, from tuberculosis. And in their hearts of heart, they do not want to send him to a sanatorium. All the three male members, they know that the mother and the wife is suffering from morphine, and they are not liking the trauma which she is undergoing, and how she is day by day becoming incapable of coming out of her addiction. Yet in their hearts of hearts, because of their love for her, they all want her to recover, and they all want her to and want to make her feel that she is not addicted to morphine. And another thing that you can talk about this play is the past, the nostalgia, and the regret. So you see in the end when Mary enters into her long speech talking about her past life in the convent and her association with Mother Elizabeth, and how she had wanted to become a nun, and how she married and became unsettled, a little unsettled after her marriage, and how David also talks about his past. He's nostalgic about the past, that how he was a born actor, and how he tried to earn a lot by showing his craftsman skill in acting, but how he failed to prove to be a actor of a high standard, and how Edmund, at the same time, trying to admit that he was a normal human being, and he's a healthy bodied sailor, but yet he is incapable of carrying on his job as a sailor, and how he was brought down and taken to drinking like his brother Jemmy. And Jemmy, of course, how he failed to cope up with any profession in life and is wasting his time in going to bars and drinking. So, all the nostalgia that what I could have been and what I could do in life is now looked upon with regret, because time and tides waits for no man. And the continuum theme is the time. It is this theme, he says, this inexorable descent of time, which is shown in this particular play. That is, what time has lapsed will not be able to come back. And this time was the time of loss. This time was the time of suffering. This time was the time of nostalgia. This time was the time of the lack of belongingness. So, this time This long summer time, this long summer day, long days of journey. Journey क्यों कहा है? Journey इसलिए नहीं कहा है कि you are traveling from one place to the other. ये नहीं कहा गया है कि तुम you are making a journey in your lifetime. It is not a life. You of course are making a journey in the lifetime. पर यहाँ पे lifetime का मतलब है that whole day long, one summer day which is described in this particular play, how long and endless and timeless it is, because it never seems to end. But in the end, the focus is upon all the four characters who fade away into darkness, जो लुप्त हो जाते हैं, खो जाते हैं in darkness. And that darkness through which you cannot recover and be your own true self. So the whole play is centered on this Tyrone family, David, Mary, Edmund, and Jimmy, and how each character keeps on coming and going in the play. All the time they keep coming and going, and they are performing their parts, reflecting their own true, terrible selves as they are, and how each one of them fails to recover from their past and fails to incorporate the present into them. So, that is a little that you can talk about Long Day's Journey into Night. Thank you.